Yeah, I just turned on the fan, so I'm gonna ask someone to turn on the AC because I think it's probably.
Not here, huh?
He's here. I'll call him.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Recite a louder salawat, inshallah. We'll begin with Quran by Muhammad wa al Muhammad salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. وأنيبوا إلى ربكم وأسلموا له من قبل أن يأتيكم العذاب ثم لا تنصرون. واتبعوا أحسن ما أنزل إليكم من ربكم من قبل أن يأتيكم العذاب بغتة وأنتم لا تشعرون. أن تقول نفس يا حسرة على ما فرطت في جنب الله وإن كنت لمن الساخرين. أو تقول لو أن الله هداني لكنت من المتقين. أو تقول حين ترى العذاب لو أن لي كرة فأكون من المحسنين. بلى قد جاءتك آياتي فكذبت بها واستكبرت وكنت من الكافرين. ويوم القيامة ترى الذين كذبوا على الله وجوههم مسودة أليس في جهنم مثوى للمتكبرين. وينجي الله الذين اتقوا بمفازتهم لا يمسهم السوء ولا هم يحزنون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Ehsan, please recite a loud salawat for the beautiful recitation. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. My condolences to you all as we gather here. Thank you all for coming as we commemorate the death anniversary and the martyrdom of our dear holy prophet, Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba and Imam al-Ridha. Thank you all for coming. We all extend our deepest condolences to the Imam of our time. Alhamdulillah, we're extremely blessed to have with us our dear guest scholar in these nights, Sheikh Ehsan Ahmadi. Please help me invite him up with a loud salawat by Muhammad wa al Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وأما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكتبنا له في الألواح من كل شيء موعظة وتفصيلا لكل شيء فخذها بقوة وأمر قومك يأخذوا بأحسنها سأريكم دار الفاسقين. We wrote for him in the tablets advice concerning all things and elaboration of all things. And we said, hold on to them with power and bid your people to hold on to the best of what is in them. Soon I shall show you the abad of the transgressors. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifanaik. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your great deeds and a'mal, especially your commemoration for Imam al-Hussein Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salatu wassalam during the month of Muharram and Safar. And inshallah we all get the tawfiq and bounty and blessing to be able to go to his ziyarat with the true sense of ma'rifah in our life, and inshallah constantly benefit from the topic and the bounty of shafa'ah in this world and the next by reciting a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And before we get started, let's remember all of the marhumin and marhumat and beloved ones, and inshallah we can include them within our majlis by reciting your second salawat followed by Surah Al-Fatiha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And inshallah, our third of salawat, and the most important of all, we can sincere our intention and niyat with the complete amount of ikhlas. We can share and express our condolences and tasliyat to the heart of Imam of Time, Hazrat Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajjalallah ta'ala farajahu sharif, by reciting our loudest of salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this bounty and blessing to be able to gather around under the beautiful banner of the Ahlul Bayt, especially with the name of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Nabi Rasulullah, Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, and Imam al-Ridha alayhi salatu wassalam, as we reach the last days of the month of Safar, the month of sorrow and grief of the Ahlul Bayt. So for that, we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that inshallah we can actually gain some practical lessons from the lives of the Ma'asumin, including with Nabi Rasulullah, and from the teachings of the Quran, and inshallah to the point that we can practice those lessons and have reflection on those, so that whenever we say that we wish to be among the ashab of Sayyid al-Shuhada, this wish would not be just a mere sense of words. No, this wish should have actually intentions and actions with it. Right up front, there may be a question, but wait, Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari, on his ziyarat of Arba'in, when he goes and he visits the grave of Imam al-Hussein, he mentions a great point to who? To Atiyah. What is that great point? Once he finishes with ziyarat of Abu Abdullah, he goes for the ziyarat of Ashab, then at the end he says, I am with you where you at. I am with you at your status. I am with you at your level in heaven. Atiyah turns around and tells him, how is that even possible? You were there all the way in the city of Medina. all these ashab of Sayyid al-Shuhada, one of a kind ashab, one of the kind companions, the most loyal companions that the history of mankind yet to see similar people like them, were here in the Battle of Karbala alongside of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, giving up everything that they had for the sake of Imam al-Hussein, to the point that the swords were separating the heads from the bodies, and you tell them that you're with them at the same stage, same level, same status in the hereafter? Is that even possible? Now, Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari, the great companion, right? What does he respond? He says, yes, because I've heard from Nabi Rasulullah that whoever has this liking and love and caring towards whatever thing, he or she will be resurrected with that specific thing. My love, my care, my passion is only for Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, we have to understand the background story of this one too. Who is telling this, or who is making this claim? It's someone such as Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari. It's not like any random person such as myself that we claim to have this love of the Ahlul Bayt. Yes, we have minor, stages of it. We care for them, we spend time on them, we try to perhaps do a lot of good deeds when it comes to the month of Muharram and Safar, right? We constantly try to establish that sense of passion and caring that we have for the Ahlul Bayt, and we try to extend it and expand it. But when Jabir says he's already at the highest level of a ma'arifah that he could, what's the sign of that one? Right before this event, as he goes for the first ziyarah, it's very interesting. He asks Atiyah to place my hand on the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Now what happens after? Just by placing his hand on the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada, he faints. It's not that he's pretending. At his age, he faints. So Atiyah has to go and bring some water and splash over his face to wake up Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari. And he mentions the famous quote that Habibun la yajibu habibak. What kind of a friend would not answer to respond to a salam of his friend? So you see, the ma'rifat is there. The action is there. The background is there. All of the testing has been done. Once he reaches that stage of ma'rifah, then he talks about, I'm with you at your status. And not even to say the shahada, to the ashab. So there is this whole background story to it. So that's the whole purpose, inshallah, that we can try to level in and inshallah dissect it a little bit further as we learn about the life of Nabi Rasulullah, inshallah, Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, and our beloved Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam. Because brothers and sisters, the very same story keeps on happening every day, every month, every year. And we're part of that story whether we want it or not. I started talking about the famous hadith, or very interesting hadith, when Harun al-Rashid is having a discussion with Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salatu wassalam. And he's trying to brag about his accomplishment as the caliph, or as the king of the Muslimin and Muslimat. So he's showing off and he's showing all of the stuff that he has, to Imam Musa al-Kazim alayhi salatu wassalam. And he mentions, or he asks the question, Ma hazad dar? What is all of this, it comes and goes, the system that we have, the people, Muslimin, Muslimat, from this, border to that border, throughout the continents that we have. How do you see this part? Or what is this, this realm, if you want to say? What is this region that we have? How is this from the perspective of an imam? And Harun already knows Imam Musa al-Kazim, all of the Khulafa they knew. So what does Imam turns around and tells him? He said, Hazihi darul fasiqin. Right from the front. Imam does not do any ta'aruf, he does not go to side. No, just straight up in the face of Harun. What does he say? He said, everything that you have established, everything that you claim as part of your power, everything that you tend to feel good about is nothing except darul fasiqin. Then Imam recites the very same ayah which I recited at the beginning of the sermon to explain what he means to Harun. وَكَتَبْنَا لَهُ فِي الْأَلْوَاحِ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ مَوْعِزَةً وَتَفْصِيلًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ فَخُذْهَا بِقُوَّةٍ وَأْمُرْ قَوْمَكَ يَأْخُذُوهَا بِأَحْسَنِهَا سَأُرِيكُمْ دَارَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. This very last part is when Imam is using for his argument. And he talks about the story of Nabi Musa and the Qawm of Bani Israel. We went over this yesterday, right? After going through so many ups and downs, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Nabi Musa, وَكَتَبْنَا لَهُ فِي الْأَلْوَاحِ. When we send the scriptures to Nabi Musa, what did we include with it? مِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ مَوْعِزَةٍ. From everything there was this, like in the sense of advice within those like scriptures. وَتَفْصِيلًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And we had this explanation, the commentary, the elaboration of every single thing within those scriptures. فَخُذْهَا بِقُوَّةٍ. So what we have sent you, what we have revealed to you, hold it on or hold on to it, with your utmost amount of power. Maintain it. Don't let it go, right? وَأْمُرْ قَوْمَكَ يَأْخُذُوا بِأَحْسَنِهَا. Not only hold on to it yourself as the Nabi, but give this order to your nation, to your tribe, to your qawm, to hold on to the best of its teachings. So there's a hierarchy of teachings, right? Then Allah concludes, سَأُرِيكُمْ دَارَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. سَأُرِيكُمْ means we will show them the Dar al-Fasiqin. At what time? Time of Nabi Musa. Right when the revelation has happened, right? Meaning that something has happened when Nabi Musa is collecting that revelation, that by the time he comes back, what would he see? What would he witness? The Dar al-Fasiqin. Within that 40 days. So when he comes back, what does he see? You see that everything that he has planned for, everything that he has practiced for, everything that he has basically spent days and nights and gone through so many of the difficulties and hardships and all of the tests and miracles that he had shown, when he comes back, what does he see? See the very same people who were witnessing for the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the very same people have lowered themselves, not to anything like, let's say, 2 gods, 3 gods, no. All the way from the Almighty, if you want to call, to worshiping immaterial, let's say, object. The golden calf, right? When we look at it from different aspects, it's very interesting. It's made out of gold. Everybody likes gold. The color of it, the material of it, right? The value of it. Women, men, doesn't matter. Each one like it in a different way. Some people like to wear it, some people have to buy it. So they like it despite of, right? They look at it as investment. So gold by itself has this, attractive, attributes in a form of a calf that makes noise. Imagine if you have a necklace that constantly speaks to you and place AI within the necklace. Don't get the ideas, right? So at that time, all of a sudden, going through all of the miracles, seeing the ocean opening up, seeing the rock having the fountains of water, all of that, they put it aside. They come back to worship. Not just to say, okay, this is something we made and we feel good. No, to worship. What does worship means? I want to give a very good example, or actually, it's not really good, but it's something that we all have to deal with. When we talk about worship, we talk about that sincere connection that a servant has towards his Lord. If you want to give an example, it's like, for example, when you're checking your cell phone and you're so focused on it, right? That if something happens and you get distracted for 1 second, what happens to you? You get angry, right? You're watching that favorite TV show on the TV, and you're so into it. It's a perfect timing. It's that play of the season, right? All of a sudden, your sibling starts running in front of you, between you and the TV. What happens, right? Let's not go to what happens. We get so pissed. We get so angry. We want, right? Why? It's that sincere, we call it connection. That has to be applied, in a proper place, which is the topic of ubudiyah. But where do we apply it? Favorite TV show, entertainment, our cell phone, different social platforms, right? Now, sometimes there are good that comes out of it, but for most of the part, it's not. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this to Nabi Musa. He says, you showed them everything. You gave them all the signs. You literally showed them the path. Yet again, what happens? سَأُرِيكُمْ دَارَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. It will show them the Dar al-Fasiqin. First comes the signs. First comes the revelation. There comes this stage in which the Dar al-Fasiqin gets formed. Why? Because now the source of the entire system is changed. Coming from Nabi Musa or from his successor Harun, right? Where does it go back to? Where does it get shifted to? to a golden calf that makes noise. We laugh about it, but they were serious. Imagine they literally give up everything they owned in the form of jewelries and the gold that they have to build that golden calf. It's not that it was just given to them. It wasn't like somebody had all this gold. No, they literally sweat for it, right? Imagine you put all of your investment, your life's worth of investment as a group, as a whole community, to build something such as a golden calf and worship it. So what happened to the mind within the 40 days? They saw the miracles, they saw Nabi Musa, they saw Pharaoh, they saw the army, they were chased off, they saw like literally how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescued them. It took only 40 days, right? Only 40 days. So when they witness miracle, tangible as miracle, and they switch side within 40 days, me and you, we are like deprived from seeing, witnessing a miracle, we have to understand how severe of a problem we may be facing, literally living in our time. Why so? Remember the golden calf? The golden calf could have so many examples in our life. So many different examples in our life. And what's the golden calf example of? The mistaq of? We say something that draws the attention towards itself to the point that we forget about everything else. To the point that we forget about everything else. So you can think of the examples in our daily life. The example of cell phone was one. The example of a favorite TV show was one. Sometimes a lot of activities that we do, we get so focused on that we forget about everything else, not only during that activity, but even afterwards. Right? So all of those could be the example of the golden calf for me and you. But wait, we have all of this topic of concentration and focus. If you want to achieve something, you have to set goals, and then you have to like escalate the goal. You have to have focus and like basically on the objective. So what happens to all of those? No, that does not go in contrary with what we're talking. We are talking about a stage, a situation where everything is shown to us, everything is proven to us. At the same time, we tend to block our eyes from the reality. Why? To settle down for something that is as low as possible. Because of what? Because of its, like, let's say, esoteric, features. Oh, it's shiny, it's new, it's cool, it's made out of gold, it makes noise, everybody's worshiping it, everybody's chipping in, everybody's going for it, everybody's investing for it, right? Everybody. This becomes one of the criterions of the golden calf. So how many different examples can we find within our life? Then Imam continues and he says, who are the fasiqeen? Referring to Harun. الذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل. Gives two criterion. He says, number one, they break their promise, like the promise that they had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه. They shook on it, they made the contract, they made the promise, then they denied the whole thing. Right? They reject the whole thing. Number two, وَيَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلْ. Not only they break the promise, but they take it further. They cut off themselves from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has reached the agreement with them to maintain their connection with. And this story talks about the successor of Nabi Musa. What Imam is hinting towards Harun al-Rashid, right? Saying not only we forget about the promise, the contract that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the same time, we tend to forget about the promise that we have given to keep holding on to the one that He has made amr. He had given that order to whatever you do, hold on to this, right? That's that what they say that's the the ahsanaha in the previous ayah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Nabi Musa, it says we gave you all of this within the scripture. Give it to your nation and tell them to hold on and pick the best of it. The best of it, they say the Mufassirin, is the very same thing that we have to hold on to it despite of no matter how we go about the contract or that misaq that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Then Imam continues, وَيُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَعْرَضِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. So the ones who break their promise, right? The ones who break their contract, right? It's ahdullah. It's not like a contract, a business contract, right? Once that goes away, anything that comes in replacement of it will be what? Will be fasad. It will be corruption. Like corruption leads to being the losers, being the khasirin, right? And then Imam continues and again says like, okay, so how is this Dar al-Fasiqin is established? What will be the introductories to this Dar al-Fasiqin? سأصرف عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق وإن يروا كل آية لا يؤمنوا بها. Imam starts to talk about descriptions. He says, number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, I would not give this realm to those, meaning the Darul Muwahhidin, the opposite, right? Those who have kibr, yatakabbaruna fil ard, bighayr al-haq. So they have this topic of kibr. They have this like self-admiration. They have this like sense of seeing themselves at the top of everything, bighayr al-haq. This bighayr al-haq is a very interesting condition, right? Meaning like I could be like so much blowing into my own personal bubble in the illusion, in the assumption that I have, and all of it is based on what we refer to as a mirage. Completely the opposite of haqq and truth. And I could be constantly thinking and assuming that I'm doing something good, but everything I'm doing is based on batil. It's like as if like you're building a castle in the sky. I'm making all of the design perfect. I'm using the best of the quality of the materials. I'm bringing it from the the best of the manufacturers, best of engineers, best of employees, right? And I make sure everything is planned, but the foundation, the place that I'm structuring it, is not on haqq, or it's not according to haqq. What does it become at the end? It becomes khusran. Spend so much time, so much effort, so much but whatever I had, it ends up being a golden calf. Everything that we have placed it in, right? Then Imam continues and he says, okay, why all of this is happening? Very simple reason. Imam says, وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الرُّشْدِ لَا يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا. Why ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ. Very simple reason. They see the sign, but they go sideways. They acknowledge the sign, they reject it. Literally, they see it every day, every moment of their life, as they go to their work, as they go to school, as they go, as they do their daily, let's say, deeds, they see the signs. They neglect it. This is the very same story as happening every day. Majority of the people, take the percentage, right? What's the percentage of the world population? The 6 billion, 7 billion, right? 8 billion, I'm not sure what's the last one. What percentage of this 6, 7 billion people are actually believers? Remove the Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, put them aside. What percentage remains, right? Even living at this time and era where literally with the tip of your finger, you can get all the information that you want if you want to do a research. No, if you want to do it, literally witness a lot of, lectures and, watch a lot of, let's say, teachings at the tip of your finger. Still, what percentage of the world we have that they do not believe in anything? Now, within the believers, again, the very same concept applies. That if I built everything that I have based on something that is mirage, what would I be expecting from it? Right? So hence they say, one of the things we constantly have to be careful, as Amir al-Mu'mineen says in his letter, he says, do not be the tajir of ghurur. Tajir al-ghurur. Tajir means businessman, the ones who does the business deal. Ghurur, right? Do not be a businessman for ghurur. Why is Imam saying be a businessman for ghurur? Meaning take a look at your life. What am I exchanging? This mashallah bounty that we have, this unique bounty, that again, every second of it, it's worth more than whatever, we can possibly think in terms of the material, gain. What am I exchanging it on every second? What am I getting from it? What am I, turning it into? If I'm doing an exchange, if I'm not doing an exchange, that's like wa musibata, right? And sometimes happens. So many of us, we try to build and build and build, invest, save, until when? Inshallah, when the zuhur of Imam of time comes, that's when I'm going to calculate my khums, that's when I'm going to do donation, that's when I'm going to help out for school, that's when I'm going to do all of this stuff. The plans is for the day of zuhur. right? Postponing it. But again, you don't know how long is this, mashallah, bounty is going to continue. But we keep on postponing it. The attachment we have to this topic of dirham and dinar. Very same topic. Qawm of Nabi Musa, Qawm of Nabi Noah, Qawm of Nabi Ibrahim. Take all of the prophets, come to the time of Nabi Rasulullah, come to the time of Imam, like Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, all the way, Imam al-Rida, to the occultation. Very same concept of dirham and dinar. It doesn't leave us alone. Constantly, keeping up with us. No matter how much lectures, no matter how much members, no matter how much masaib, no matter how much commemoration for the Ahlul Bayt, the very same attachment that we have towards dirham and dinar remains there. One of the reasons is because Shaitan actually talks about this. He says, for dirham and dinar, you're dealing with me. Like, you know how it's hard to pay sadaqah? It's like you even reach into your pocket to take out your card and scan the QR code or whatever, right? But right before scanning it, you start having doubts about it. That doubt is coming directly from Shaitan. He says, for the topic of sadaqah, dirham and dinar, I come to fight off the believers, right? So that's part of it. The other part, which we don't need the Shaitan for, it's our own self, our own self, our own nafs, right? The part that's constantly wanting everything, but wanting everything by itself is not bad. It wants everything, and it wants to be everlasting, and it wants it to be right up front. It's not willing to work for it. A lot of times when we have a discussion, it's like at the end of the day, when we ask, okay, why did you did this? What's the response we get? Oh, it's more, it's easier. It makes it more convenient. It makes the life in order. So, alhamdulillah, right? So aiming for that convenience, aiming for that comfort of life. To some extent, alhamdulillah, it's acceptable. But when this changes and becomes part of our identity, in what form? In a form that we're constantly seeking to gain that convenience of life. This becomes tajir of ghurur. How does that become tajir of ghurur? What is given, what are we exchanging for the sake of convenience and comfort of life? What are we giving up? And what is it constantly taking us and making us busy? The more you work, the work never ends. The more work you will get. The smarter we'll get at work, but more expansion. It's constantly taking us and taking us and taking us and taking us. They refer to it as a circle of work, rest, work again. Why do you work? Because I have to pay your bills, I have to buy a house, I have to put the bread on the table. Once I do this, finally I get the chance to rest. So why do you rest? Because tomorrow I have to go to work again. Right? It's Monday morning, back to work. So why do you work again? Because I have to pay all the bills to get some rest. Why do you rest again? I have to go to work. Work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. Circle of work and sleep. How to get out of this cycle without going, again, we're not saying not to work. No. While working, making sure we're not just trading our main capital, our main investment for the golden calf, which I call it the ghurur, right? What's the point? What's that getaway? What's that breakaway which changes all of this? Is one simple thing. It is once you go to work, then once you come back home to rest, when you're resting, it's that at the stage of resting. We constantly have to go back one step and have a contemplation. That ta'aqqul, as which they refer to. What is the contemplation for? Not to how to make my job in a more easier way. No. In terms of, okay, have 1 moment, 1 second, maybe 1 minute per day. Look within. How much have I been able to make changes in myself? The time is ticking, right? You're not coming back. No matter how much, mashallah, advancement we have in technology, that's one thing that the humanity has not been able to solve for many years and would not be able to solve, the topic of life and the time. They keep on talking about time machines and stuff, but it ain't gonna happen, right? Now, when it comes to this capital that we have, one-time use, constantly taking, constantly using up, what am I gaining in return? That one moment of ta'aqqul, that one moment of contemplation. So it will give us the energy for the next day that I go back to work. Now I can look how is my work related to how my personality is getting formed? How is it shaping up my nafs? How is it shaping up myself, right? Again, the next day, as it comes to that resting position, I have to go back and do the very same contemplation. So this small contemplation, but gradually over time. It's not to save up and do the best we can do 24/7 just for the day to come. No, that's a false stage of intizar, as we say. Some of us, we may be like this. Okay, we're waiting for Imam of time, we love Imam of time, we give everything for the sake of Imam of time, only if we see him. Only if the zuhur happens, because that's when I'm sure, I'm guaranteed that, okay, this is Imam of time, then I'm going to give everything. But that's not the whole philosophy behind, awaiting the appearance of Imam of time. Why is this awaiting happening? This awaiting is not only for our time, actually, to be honest. It goes back even from the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Right from the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, especially after the Shahada or Rahla of Nabi Rasulullah. That's when the intizar happens. What is this intizar for? It's for that Dar al-Fasiqeen to be turned over to Dar al-Muwahhideen. It's for that foundation of batil to be removed and for that foundation of haqq to take place. That's why when Harun is talking to Imam Musa al-Kazim as he continues, he says, okay, so who owns this, all of this territory that you refer to Dar al-Fasiqeen? If I'm the Fasiq, if I'm the one who's like making corruption, so who's the true owner of it? Imam says, our Shia, our followers. But they're at the stage of imtihan. They're at the stage of getting tested. And for you, it's a stage of means of testing others, right? So for our Shias is to be tested by someone who's fasiq and is taking advantage of all of this, like let's say like utilities and all of this, like the power that he has to make sure he puts a test on the Shias. Then Harun says, so how come you guys don't take it back? If you claim that all of this is yours, why don't you take it back? Right? This is where the discussion gets a little bit heated. What does Imam say? He says our Shias, they have to go through this stage of what we say that, the building stage. It's not like just by claiming. It's not just by being born to. It's not just by raising. It's not just by having the name. It's not just by wearing the t-shirt or the amama or no. It has to go through a series of tests and tests and tests and tests and more and more and more and more and more. Until when? Until the true sense of Shias will remain. That will be when the foundation will be ready to establish based on the haqq. Before that, the foundation is not ready. Before that, right? Again, it's going to go back to this Darul Fasiqeen. For that, we have to wait. So now Harun tells Imam Musa al-Kazim, so that means I'm off the hook. So if you're saying that I could be part of this, like Imam says, no, you're the ones who are mistreating everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you for the sake of your own self-desires. That has absolutely nothing to do with this testing purposes, right? Just gives them directly. And a similar hadith, inshallah, as we go to the life of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba tonight, we're talking about a life of an Imam, which a lot of times we may refer to him as the Imam al-Madhlum. We refer to him as the Kareem of the Ahlul Bayt. A lot of times when it comes to history, we may be a little bit not that much knowing about the life of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. The two favorite Imams usually when we ask, especially the kids, is Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Hussein. When it comes to other Imams, right? Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, he's the first grandson. He's like the first light that came through the marriage of two Ma'sumin, Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra and Amir al-Mu'mineen. So you can imagine the status that he had at the early years of Islam, during the life of Nabi Rasulullah, and even further at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, to the point that the Rawaya, as they say, as he would step outside of the house, people would be so drawn towards him that everybody would stop walking. They would just wait and they would just watch Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. Nobody would move. So Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba had to go back to his house so people would come back to their normal senses, if you want to say, and continue their path. Then Imam would leave his house again, right? That's the status or the nobility of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. You talk about his karamat, the kareem of the Ahlul Bayt. Numerous stories. But the question is why Imam al-Hasan is known to be the Kareem of the Ahlul Bayt. Pay attention to this part. When we look at the history of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, it makes it a very difficult, circumstances for him. Literally, the very same ones who were looking sideways, who were looking at their farm fields, who were looking at their cattle and sheep and all of their livestock at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, when Imam Ali would call them towards jihad, the very same people, now they're giving their allegiance or promise to Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. Nothing has changed. The very same people who empty basically the ground, make it ready for someone like Ibn Muljam to come up and do the strike, the very same people now, they have paid their allegiance to Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. At the same time, the enemy has become even stronger. He has more influence. He has more all of these goods within his hand that he's constantly showering upon Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba right from the beginning. So Muawiyah, he does so many things before the peace treaty, before even the war happens, against Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. The very first thing he does, he starts to pay a lot of hypocrites in the city of Kufa. Right when Amir al-Mu'minin has become Shaheed, he starts paying a lot of these hypocrites, the Munafiqeen in the city of Kufa, to go after Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. So the first actually attempt for assassinating Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba happens in the city of Kufa, right after Shahada of Amir al-Mu'minin. So the riwayah that you hear that Imam used to wear armor underneath his clothes, the reason for it is this attempt. From the very beginning. So you had the hypocrites in the city of Kufa being bought out. Then what does Muawiyah do? He doesn't stay with only the hypocrites. He continues to work on the people who had enmity towards Amir al-Mu'minin. He gave them big money, right? He invests heavily. And he starts making that poisonous, if you want to say, atmosphere for Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. At the same time, he starts moving his army towards the borders within the territory of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. To the point that Imam says, they have come already all the way to our cities. As he's talking, nobody's able, willing to get up and go for a fight. What has happened? They have given up the revelation. They have settled for that golden calf. What is the golden calf in their example? The war is too hard, too many people die. What about our farms? What about our gardens? What about our women? What about our children? Right? The same golden calf. The dunya as we speak of. No matter how much Imam al-Hasan goes on the minbar, and he's Imam al-Ma'sum. He's not a speaker. Imam al-Ma'sum talking to them directly with his balaghat, with his knowledge, with his isma, nothing goes through. Finally, there is a momentum after all of this try where Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba puts his cousin as the commander in charge and sends them forward as the frontier with 12,000 horsemen to go and just stop Muawiyah from invading. Just stop them until the main army reaches. So who's the cousin? The cousin is the one that Muawiyah has literally killed his entire family in the previous battle at the time of Amir al-Mu'minin. So he has this enmity towards Muawiyah. They stop Muawiyah on the first counter that they have. They stop him. On the very first night, Muawiyah sends a letter to him. He says, if you join us, I will give you 100,000 dinar, 500,000 cash, 500 when we capture Kufa. For half of the money in cash, on the first night that they encounter Muawiyah, the one who's has this grudge against them, changes the side. So he has the family relation with Imam al-Hasan. He was fighting alongside of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He had his own family being killed by Muawiyah for the price of 500,000 dinar, which it's we say 500, but how much was it? Imagine 500,000 golden coin at this time. I don't know how much is that in terms of dollars. And on one night, that's a big trade-off, right? He changes side. According to historical report, up to 7 commanders, not, let's say the higher rankings, but the top rankings, commanders of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba leave him on the side. To the point that the rest of the people, they say, hey, if everybody's switching side, why not us? So they start writing a letter to Muawiyah that if you want, we'll bring Imam al-Hasan to you. If you want, close hands. If you not, we send you the head. Isn't the very same story of Kufa, later on at the time of Imam al-Hussein? Right? So the situation where Imam al-Hassan was in was literally one of the most difficult, you can say, where the roots, the foundation, the fundamental of religion is at stake. How many companions does Imam al-Hassan have? Aside from some of the Bani Hashim and some of the great companions who have remained from the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, who else is there? So if Imam makes the move, what's the sacrifice? What's the risk that he has to take? For that very few people to give up their life, and what will be the remaining of it? Nothing. Which Imam al-Hassan decides to go for that peace treaty. Why? Just to give another sign for the people who go for the golden calf to realize that they're only worshipping a golden calf. In their time, Muawiyah. Right? So that's the Mazlumiyat. Now why do we call him Kareem? They say after the peace treaty, the very same people who were willing to give up Imam al-Hassan as a prisoner or head of Imam al-Hassan to Muawiyah, the very same people start calling Imam al-Hassan with different names and titles, referring to him as one of the most disrespectful titles that we can use. The very same people. To the point that Imam al-Hassan was not welcome in any of the sessions, even in his own hometown city of Medina. Why Imam moves from city of Kufa to Medina? In Kufa, everywhere he goes, people look down on him. The very same people who betrayed him. They look down on him. Oh, you were the cause. You were the one who mentioned this. You were the one who signed this, right? Every session, imagine you come to Sabah, every majlis you go, English, Urdu, Farsi, like Arabic, doesn't matter. Everywhere you go, people look down on you. Not only look down on you, they keep on telling you very disrespectful, words. And that's when you were part of, let's say, a board, right? And all of a sudden, everybody's looking down on you. And they're constantly giving you the look, constantly looking at shame on you. Imam moves to the city of Medina. Still the same thing. So what does Imam do? He goes back to the very same basics. What do we use to make the golden calf? The gold that we invest? Imam gives away whatever he has. At least by this act of generosity, I will be able to soften the heart of the very same people who betrayed me. This is very hard. To be kind towards the ones who betrayed you and constantly looking in the eye and give them money. Not one instance, for the whole amount of literally 10 years of his imamate. To the point that at one point, it had become sort of a trend among those who were calling themselves the companions. They would say, whatever you want, just go get it from Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba. One day, one of the companions talking to another one, he's talking about one of the horses of Imam al-Hassan. The other companion says, well, it's easy. If you like it, just go and ask the Imam. He will give it to you. It's like, no, he's not going to give it. It's the horse. It's imagine a brand new car. He said, no, just go and ask him. He goes and he doesn't have the guts to actually say it in words. He keeps on looking at the horse. Keeps on looking at the horse, looking at the horse. And Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba is looking at him, looking at the horse, not saying anything. He's like, do you like the horse? He says, yes. The minute he says yes, Imam al-Hassan says, take it, it's yours. Right? By looking at a horse, he becomes the owner of the horse. But the message is not received. Why? The mentality is already so much shifted from that, the base of haqq towards batil. When the batil comes, doesn't matter. So Imam keeps on giving and giving. Imagine 3 times at least, or 4 times. Literally 2 times giving up everything, for another 2 times splitting in half. That's in our mind, it's taking a 1/5 of our remaining saving of the year. It's a challenge, to the point that a lot of people have questions about it. But literally from the half or all of everything that we have worked, to the point of even splitting the shoes, right? But Imam does it at least 4 times. So that's the Kareem of the Ahlul Bayt. We look at his knowledge, we look at his ma'rifah, we look at his courage. The battle of Jamal, as Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya says, if you want to win the battle, you have to bring down the flag. What is the flag? The camel. And he refers to it, if you want to bring down the shaitan, you have to hit the camel. That's the representative. Muhammad ibn Hanafiya takes everything, everybody, and whatever strategy he has, he attacks left, right. He's not successful. He comes back all in wounds and bloody and tired. He has tried so much and he feels ashamed. Amir al-Mu'mineen tells to Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, go and bring down the flag. He goes, the first strike, the camel is done. He comes back. Now Muhammad ibn Hanafiya becomes more even shameful. What does Amir al-Mu'mineen tell him? He says, don't be shameful. You're my son. But he He's the son of Fatima. His courage. It's just not circumstances for him to show his karamat. One of the sons of Zubayr, the very same Zubayr after the Battle of Jamal, right? At the time of Imam al-Hassan. He becomes accompanied with Imam al-Hassan in one of the journeys. It happened that they're going on a journey and they become like fellow travelers. As they go, as they stop in one side of the road, there is this dried trees on the side, and they sit down, they lean against those trees. And this guy is a Zubayri, as we say. He doesn't believe in Ahlul Bayt, he doesn't believe in Billah, he doesn't believe in Imamat. And he doesn't even talk to Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba in direct dialogue. He looks at the dry trees and says, wow, how great would have been if these dry trees would have leaves and they would have fresh dates for us. As if it's like an impossible wish. Again, Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, the Kareem of the Ahlul Bayt, says, you want some fresh date? He raises his hand to the sky and says, oh Allah, give us your rizq. The trees all blossom and they all have the leaves. The dates start dropping for this Zubayri guy. Right? One, for them is nothing. But for us to be able to acknowledge their status, right? For us to be able to acknowledge their status. Imam al-Hassan has to go through this. Abu Abdullah has to go through the tragedy of Ashura. Yet again, the hearts of people are still at sleep. So inshallah, we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that true ma'rifah of our Imams and the Ahlul Bayt, to the point that once we hold on to them, we will never let go, inshallah. Let's do our salam to the cemetery of Baqi, inshallah, and we can make the intention to include all of the marhumin and marhumat and all of those who are facing difficulties in their life, inshallah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Muhammad, ya Hasan ibn Ali, أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Those who have gone to Medina, they know the minute you lay your eyes on the cemetery of Baqi, you just sense the madlumiyat of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba. Every other shrines we go, alhamdulillah, that despite of difficulties, that despite of all the stuff that's happening, once you get to the shrine, you feel at safe and peace and at home. You see the golden shrine, you see the golden minarets, you see all of the people coming in and out, you see them being open 24/7, you see millions and millions and millions of za'irin going for the ziyarat of Arba'in. But there is this portion of the city of Medina which they say when you look at it at night, it is the darkest place because there are no lights within this region. This place is already it's all closed throughout the day except for 2 times per day. And those 2 times is only for about an hour, which you're supposed to constantly be walking. You cannot stop once you get there. You cannot be reciting anything. You constantly have to walk and walk and walk. Just do a tour of the whole cemetery and leave. The very same cemetery which 4 of our imams are buried. no gravestone, no shrine, no roof, nothing. But all of that aside, not allowing the za'ireen of the imams to go and say at least their ziyarah. No, at least do their commemoration. No, at least do a little of matam. We know there is this heat that is within the hearts of mu'mineen and mu'minat when it comes to the shahadat of our imams. And who's better to cry for than Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, the Kareem of the Ahlul Bayt. As there is narrated, Nabi Rasulullah was standing with the Ashab. Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba was approaching the group. Nabi Rasulullah kept on looking at Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba without blinking. Constantly looking at Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, constantly looking at him. And he smiles. The Ashab immediately asked, "Oh, Nabi Rasulullah, you never let him take your eyes off from Imam al-Hasan. What's going on?" Nabi Rasulullah says, "This is my Hasan. He's been guided by Jibreel. He's been protected by Mikael. He is my heart. He is my soul. He is part of my body. He is my son. He is Hasan ibn Ali." The very same Imam, after 10 years of constant betrayal, of constant lack of support, but not from only the people, from the believers, not only from the believers, from particular and special believers, not only from them, even from his own members of the family to some extent, after 10 years, not even that, even from his own wife inside of his own house. So the actual gharib in this sense is Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. On a day that is known to be a heated day, high temperature, Imam is fasting. He comes home. That Mal'una brings this bowl of milk, which she has already poisoned it for Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. And she kind of tricks and forces Imam al-Hasan to break his fast with this poison. The minute Imam has a slip from it, he places down the plate or the bowl or the cup and looks at her and tells her a couple of lines. The very first thing he says to her, "Was I a bad Imam for you? Was I a bad husband for you? Did I not take care of you in terms of the wajibat and even mustahabbat? Did I make anything difficult for you? Did I commit one single act of zulm and oppression upon you? Why would you have to go with this? You will not get what you want from him," referring to the letter of Muawiyah giving the promise of money and marriage with his son Yazid. You will not get what he has promised you, I'll guarantee. And that's what happens to her. She receives the money, but Yazid says, "If you had the guts to go and poison the grandson of Nabi Rasulullah, how would I make assurance that you would not poison my son?" So she spends all of that money to cure the sickness that she starts having and showing the symptoms right after poisoning of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, to the point that she dies and nobody even knows where her grave is. But we're talking about a wife of Imam al-Ma'soom. So they say Imam became the status of the Imam, the health of the Imam became worse and worse and worse. At one point, he called out the servants in the house and he sent out two towards the house of Imam al-Hussein and Hazrat Abbas, and he sent the other two towards the house of Sayyidah Zainab and Kulthum. What's the message? Tell my family, tell my beloved ones to come to my house. It is the time for me to say my farewell. So they say Abu Abdullah al-Hussein hastes so fast from his house to reach the house of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba that on the path of running towards the house, he was trying to tie up his ammama and placing it on his head. By the time he placed it on his head, he was already at the house of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. You see how much love is there between the two? He walks in, what does he see? He sees the Kareem of the Ahlul Bayt laying there on the floor, and his face and the color of the skin has turned green due to the signs and symptoms of the poison. What does he see? He sees that Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba vomits, but what does he vomit? It's not just the vomiting, he's vomiting blood from his beloved lips. Imam al-Hussein, when he sees this stage, he starts crying for Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hassan puts aside the tray that they had in front of him, and he says, oh brother, come closer to me. Help me to stand. Help me to stand like halfway. Help me to like lean against you. Imam al-Hussein goes to Imam al-Hassan, embraces him, kisses on his forehead. Then he helps him to get up and he places his head on his chest. And Imam al-Hussein is crying for Imam al-Hassan. Imam al-Hassan is crying for Abu Abdullah. Then Imam al-Hassan says, oh brother, you should not be crying for me. La yawmka yawmika ya Abu Abdullah. I am going from this world, but at least I'm under a roof. I am going from this world, but at least I have my brothers next to me. I have Imam al-Hussein. I have Hazrat Abbas. I have Sayyida Zainab. I have Kulthum. The minute I want something, you guys will bring it for me. I will leave this world and my body will be buried. I will leave this world and I will get the ghusl and kafan. But oh Abu Abdullah, no day is like your day when your plain body, it is left on the plains of Karbala. But what a body it is, a body that has been trampled over by horses, not one time, but 10 times, going back and forth to the point that the Maqam says we could hear the sound of the crack of the bones of the chest of Imam al-Hussein breaking down. That would be the body of you, O Hussein, laid down in the plains of Karbala. Don't cry for me, O Abu Abdullah. At this moment, Hazrat Abbas comes in, Kulthum comes in, Sayyida Zainab. What do they see immediately? Imam al-Hassan points to Abu Abdullah. Wipe out the blood from my lips. Do not let Sayyida Zainab see the blood or the remaining of the blood on my lips. But again, La yawmka yawmika ya Abu Abdullah. They were so thorough, making sure Sayyida Zainab would not see the Masa'ib. But imagine when the sound of Zuljana is heard for the last time on Ashura, when the women look outside and they see the horse of Imam al-Hussein, but with the different condition. The horse has no rider on it. The horse saddle has been shifted upside down. The color of the horse has been turned from white to red due to so much blood being gushed over the horse. When they see the horse, these women and children, they come out from the khayma. They go to the Tell of Zainabiyya. What do they see from Tell of Zainabiyya? Sayyida Zainab is looking down at the Godal of Ghatlaga. What is she witnessing? She's saying this on this circle of all of these soldiers, and all they have in their hands, they're using whatever they can find to raise it and strike on the body of Aziza Fatima Abu Abdullah. Oh Imam Hussein, don't cry for me. Wait for the day of Ashura. They say when the time of burial came, they placed the body of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba. They start using the burial ceremony, saying La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. They took the body of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba to be buried behind Nabi Rasulullah in Masjid al-Nabi. But that's when Marwan ibn Hakam comes and blocks the path for Imam al-Hassan's body. He says, Wallah, I would not allow you to bury the body of Imam al-Hassan here. As Imam al-Hassan has made the wasiyah to Abu Abdullah, I am not radi to shed a single drop of blood or a fight or an argument during my burial ceremony. If they do not allow you to bury my body, take my body to Baqi. Take my body there, it's okay. They take the body of Imam al-Hassan towards the cemetery of Baqi, but as if that was enough, those mal'unin aim towards the body of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, not with words, but with arrows. They start aiming at the body of Imam al-Hassan, releasing arrows towards the dead body of Imam al-Hassan. Some of the reports said close to 70 different arrows were pulled out from the body of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba as they had to do the ghusl and kafan one more time. So on the next day, when they go for burial again, the very same Mal'un Marwan comes and he participates in the burial. He holds on to the tabut of Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba. Hazrat Abbas looks at him. He says, yesterday you threw arrows at the body of Imam al-Hassan. Today you come and you hold on the tabut. Marwan turns out he's the enemy. It turns out it's because I'm dealing with the one whose karamat and generosity is greater than the mountains. Assalamu alayka ya Hassan al-Mujtaba. But again, this is a proper burial. There's a proper salatul mayyit. There's a proper of tashi, as they've placed down the grave of Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hussein goes inside of the grave. They hand out the body to Abu Abdullah. He places the body in the grave. One of the last thing is they open up the ropes of the kafan, and they make sure the face of the mayyit is facing the qibla. He opens the kafan of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. He turns the body towards facing the qibla. He places the head of Imam al-Hasan facing the qibla. He leans down. He gives one last farewell kiss to Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba as he's crying and saying, the loser of the world is not the one who loses all of his capital and gains, is the one who loses a brother such as you, O Imam al-Hasan. But la yawmka yawmika ya Abu Abdullah. On the 12th or the 13th of Muharram, when Imam al-Sajjad comes to bury the bodies of Shuhada, as Bani Asad are puzzled, they don't know whose body belongs to who. They keep on looking to the right and left. They don't know which piece goes where. Then there comes this rider from far distance. He calls upon Bani Asad, oh Bani Asad, step back. This is my duty. This is my work. I will tell you all of them. This is Habib, these are the Ashab, these are the Shuhada, put them all of them here. Then he says, bring me this piece of buriya, bring me this piece of the mat and it's made out of straw. Why do you want a piece of a straw, oh Imam Zain al-Abidin? Allah knows what was the stage of the body of Abu Abdullah, that Imam could not just collect the pieces of the bodies together by himself. He has to bring these pieces of mat or a rock to put all of the pieces in one. Then imagine if you want to put that inside of the grave. As Imam goes inside of the grave, they hand that buriya to him. Now he wants to turn the body towards the qibla. Bani Asad say, we were looking up, when we were looking down at the grave. Imam went inside, but he was not coming back up. We look inside, we saw him, he's leaning down, and his shoulders are shaking. What is he doing? He's giving the last kiss to the cut off vein of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein.
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الأجل الأكرم الإلهي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وسنة نبيك. Oh Allah, will ask you on the right of Imam al-Hasan and the right of Abu Abdullah to hasten the appearance of Imam of time and give us all the tawfiq and the bounty of gaining true ma'rifah towards our Imam of time and inshallah becoming part of his true companions. Oh Allah, extend your forgiveness upon all of us and upon all the marhumin and marhumat. Oh Allah, provide cure shifa for all of the sick ones. Oh Allah, will ask you to answer the hawaij of mu'mineen and mu'minat. Oh Allah, will ask you to continue guiding our future generations, children and family on the path of the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. Oh Allah, will ask you to accept this majalis on your grace and mercy and extend the sawab and rewards of this majalis to maraji, ulama, shuhada and marhumin and marhumat. Oh Allah, oh Allah, oh Allah, will ask you to place our life, the life of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, and our dead and end the death of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Brothers, please come forward. Ya Hussein. 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 Oh, Uncle Shining Moon, let me look one more time. Let me look at your eyes. Let me look at your face. Pride and joy of Hassan. See how your uncle cries. See how your uncle cries. Qasim, Amana of your mother. Qasim, Amana of my brother. Qasim, Amana of the Rasul. Qasim, Amana of Allah. Oh, Qasim, 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 Qasim Shaheed. 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 Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Oh, the joy of my heart. Of Hassan you are part. How your uncle loves you. How can I let you go? In my care you should grow. God, you're only a child. God, you're only a child. Qasim, memory of my brother. Qasim, last hope of your mother. Qasim, handsome like no other. Qasim, how can uncle see you go? Qasim, 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 Qasim Shaheed. 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 Qasim Shaheed. Oh, my little Qasim, how your uncle did wish to see you grow into youth. See you married one day, hold your children and play. Karbala killed my wish. Karbala killed my wish. Qasim, so full of youth and life, my Qasim. This shouldn't be a child life, Qasim. How can I stand here, watch, oh Qasim? Soldiers killing my child, Qasim. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. 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 Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. Curses to the one who lays in wait to kill my Qasim, oh my nephew. My two eyes go blind, why but do not let me see any harm come to you. Any harm come to you, Qasim? Horses are galloping, where is Qasim? Uncle is running, screaming, Qasim. Suddenly the dust dies down, Qasim. Pieces and pieces scattered, Qasim. Qasim, Qasim, Qasim Shaheed. 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 Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Leave me there. Hussein, boy, Hussein, boy, Hussein, boy.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين أيها الزين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي أيها الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي أيها العسكري. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا إمامنا يا إمام الإنس والجان. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك، واجعلنا جميعا من عوانك وأخص شيعتك جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.
Can I take some? How many cookies are there? Are you making raisin or chocolate chip? You're making raisin, I don't want it. You can give them the chocolate. Oh, you take the raisin. I want chocolate.